Okay, so welcome to the FTS podcast, Ansu. How
Thank
are you
you.
doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate this time. This is definitely something that I was looking forward to do. So
For
glad the day's
sure.
here. Yeah.
No, it really lined up well, and yeah, I'm grateful to be here and grateful to get to have this conversation with you today.
Absolutely.
So, are you from the area, Baltimore?
So no, I'm actually from
Yeah.
Prince George's County.
Right.
Yeah, I live in Landover, so that's the area that I'm actually from.
And you grew up there,
Mhm.
and you're still there. How was that? What was your upbringing like?
Oh, my upbringing was interesting, for lack of a better term. Um, I had very, very early, I want to say, I guess, childhood trauma, if you want to call it that. My parents, well, let me just kind of start with my family. I'm mixed. My father's first generation Liberian. My mother is white. She's from a small town called Pleasantville, Pennsylvania. That actually exists. Um, and somehow or another they met, and then
Yeah.
they had me. And they actually divorced as soon as I was born. So didn't grow up with both of them. However, just to kind of speak on my family side,
Yeah.
my mother's side of the family, very country, really didn't accept me because I was too light skinned for the family. My father's side, first generation Liberian,
Yeah.
I was too proper and too light skinned for the family. So I wasn't ever accepted by either side of the family. I was just kind of like a black sheep from the day I was born.
Hmm.
So I didn't really feel that. As a young kid, I just knew I was different, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that's how I grew. I grew up with my mother, actually in Hyattsville, Maryland.
Okay.
And back then, child laws were a little different as far as like visiting and stuff like that. Like my father, he could just come pick me up whenever he wanted to.
Mhm.
And he did. And now, mind you, I'm 44. So this is like back when there's no cell phones, like our phones were against the wall. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, my experiences with my family were just few and far between. Like,
Right.
didn't really do many, family get-togethers, things of that nature. It was just me and my mom pretty much growing up, and then my father popping in every once in a while.
Right. I like today I get envious of families that are always together,
I
always
know.
doing things together. Like this is so foreign to me. And it's like a beautiful thing. I'm grateful I get to witness it today.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have a greater appreciation for it now
hmm
that we didn't get that growing up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I love to see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm an advocate for it. I push for families to stay together. I push for families to be together. And I let them know, how that affects people, how that affects children who haven't had that.
Right.
Just as an example. So, something that I speak on and something that I tell people, man, push the family dynamic. Family dynamic
Right.
is amazing. Yeah.
So when did substances come in the picture for you? Or mental
Wow.
health struggles?
So my mental health struggles, let me kind of take you back to like a landmark moment. I was 8 years old,
Right.
and I think the biggest thing that kind of pushed me in life to start using was this moment here. Besides my family, my father would just come pick me up on the weekends when he wanted to. He wouldn't necessarily tell my mother. And I was 8 years old, and this particular weekend, my father came and picked me up, and had a great weekend together. I just remember we went to go to this old place called the Capitol Center to watch the Bulls and the Washington Bullets at the time play. They weren't the Wizards. And my first game was seeing Michael Jordan play, which was awesome.
No
But
way.
after that weekend, it was a Sunday, and my father brought me back home. And I knew something was off because as soon as we pulled up to the house, there were trash bags outside of my mother's house. And so I'm walking up the stairs, and my mother comes outside and immediately starts fighting, verbally fighting with my dad.
Right.
And they're going back and forth. And I'm trying to get in the house, and my mom stops me. And she's like, no, you're not living here anymore. And I'm like, I didn't understand, you know what I mean? So I just remember I just kind of, stepped to the side, and we had this like big window I had this big window that's in front of her house. And I kind of crept down, and she went back inside, and I just kind of like looked in the window and like waited for her to walk down the hallway. And I had a spare key. So as soon as she walked down the hallway, I went and I tried to get into the doors. So I got the top door unlocked, the deadbolt, I'm getting the bottom door unlocked. And she came in, opened the door, grabbed the key out of my hand, said, "You're going with your father. You're not staying here anymore." And I was just like, and like slammed the door, slammed on my fingers. It was crazy. So my dad, I just remember he grabbed two of the bags, and he handed me a bag, and we walked down to his car. And he lived behind Prince George's Plaza at the time, which is a mall in PG County. And we got there, and I met three people that I had never heard of before in my life. I met my soon-to-be stepmother,
Right.
my half-sister, Tanae, and my stepsister, Vuyu. And he introduced me to them and said, hey, listen, this is it's your family. And I'm like, okay. like, and now, mind you, they're from South Africa. My stepmother was actually over going to Michigan State University at the time, but I'll get into that. And so different culture, language barrier, just meeting this for the first time. Well, that night they stayed up all night packing, my stepmother and my father. And in the morning we went down to DCA, which is Washington Regional Airport. And my dad worked for Republic Airlines at the time, which became Northwest and is now Delta. And so it wasn't, when I got down there, it wasn't anything. I'm like, okay, we're going to Dad's job. I didn't realize, all these suitcases and everything meant something. So we got down there. He checked us checked us in, and then we got down to the plane, and he buckled all of us in, but he didn't sit down, and he just kind of patted me and said, "Okay, well, I'll see you later." And I was just like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? So my dad turned around. He waved at me, and got off the plane. We then landed in Lansing, Michigan. And we went to a apartment complex called Spartan Village Apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment that was there, and there was actually a bunk bed set up that me and my stepsister stayed in, and then my half sister Tanae, she was an infant at the time, stayed with my stepmother. And I just remember walking in and how different it was. Just the smell was different.
Yeah, it's not home.
It's not home. You know what I mean? Everything was just different. And here's my new surroundings, at 8 years old, so like in a day, my life changed. You know what I mean? From Sunday, I was in PG County living, supposed to go to school on Monday. The next day, I'm landing in Lansing, Michigan. So when that happened and my dad didn't come live with me, I tried my best to fit in.
Did he not? Like, what was the...
So
what happened?
He hadn't, my mom kind of just like put it on him. She didn't know about my stepmother either or anything like that. So my father, he just kind of pushed me to my stepmother and was like, here's my son, go raise him. You know what I mean? And it was just like, wow. I didn't know anything about this at the time, but it was just like getting there and getting to Lansing and him not being there was just different.
Did he never come back?
So he did end up living with us the next year.
Okay.
He finally came over and he stayed with us that next January. I was 9 years old. And we were a happy family from January up until May. This is 1992. And my stepmother was going back to South Africa for the summer because her college was over. And apparently, I guess my dad didn't want me to stay with him while this was happening in Michigan. So he ended up sending me with her to South Africa.
What the fuck?
So 9 years old. Now, mind you, this is back in 1992 while there's an apartheid going on in South Africa. So it was different.
There's a what?
Apartheid. So that basically means like the Dutch were there and they were pretty much, oppressing, you know what I mean? Like the people that were, the actual South Africans that were there. And it was really bad. It was a lot of violence. It was a lot of chaos. Huge separation, huge segregation, and seeing that, at a young age, not necessarily understanding it, but seeing what was going on was just different. You know what I mean? So I lived in Johannesburg with my stepmother and her family, and they spoke Zulu, and here I am, this American, light-skinned, you know what I mean, English-speaking kid, living in South Africa.
How long did you live there?
So I was there from May of 1992 until September of 1992.
Okay.
And then we finally came back. She was starting school again. And from September of 1992, again, big happy family with my dad. I'm just happy to be around my dad. You know what I mean? And December, my mother asked if I could come be with her for the holidays.
Right.
So he sent me to go be with her for the holidays. Well, that Christmas passed and it was time for me to go back to Lansing. And she decided that she wanted to keep me.
Okay.
So she got into another verbal altercation over the phone with my dad and pretty much told him he's staying with me. So go back from Lansing, Michigan, come back to Prince George's County, and she puts me in a private school called a Central Lutheran School with the bougiest, craziest kids that I'd ever have been with. Now, mind you, like Lansing is a farming town. You know what I mean? It's very, very rural, not city-like at all. To come back to Prince George's County and and deal with the bougie rich kids that were, at this private school. So
And you're like 10 now or
I'm
something.
10 years old now. Yep.
Wow.
And I say all that to say, during this time period, which is looking back, that's when I started to feel really different. I had these abandonment issues. I had these rejection issues with my family that I couldn't, didn't know what to do, didn't know how to deal with them, and just started trying to fit in.
Right.
And everything that I did, everyone that I encountered, whether I embraced them or not, or whether they embraced me, was me trying to be a people pleaser. Was me trying to be a yes man, just so I could feel like some acceptance. You know what I mean? Because I didn't feel accepted anywhere. I'm 10 years old. I have no identity. I'm going back between my mother, my father, and my stepmother, and back to my mother. And it was just a lot. It was a lot for me, as a kid looking back. And I didn't know how to process it. So again, that's who I became. I became the people pleaser. I became the person in school that would do the dares, do all the stupid stuff, and just act out. And that's what I did. I was a rebel with no cause, and so I acted out in everything that I did, even trying to fit in, and not knowing how to fit in, not knowing what to do or how to behave. So that pretty much kind of set the status for how I moved into drugs and alcohol.
Right.
And I went through middle school there, through elementary school and middle school at the private school. And then I went to Central High School, public school in Prince George's County, Maryland, which was way different. I don't know if you ever saw a movie called Lean on Me. Okay, well, it was a principal called Joe Clark, and he had an out-of-control school. And that's kind of what it felt like walking into Central. And again, same type of attitude, same type of person, trying to people please, you know what I mean? And here I am around, a bunch of different kids who aren't private school, kids. These are public school kids, and me trying to be the same people pleaser, trying to figure out life. And I got introduced to marijuana.
Yeah.
My sophomore year of high school, and let me tell you, it was a game changer for me. It gave me the numbness. It gave me the euphoria that I actually craved. You know what I mean? To not feel like I wasn't wanted, to not feel like I had to fit in. Marijuana fit me in.
Right.
And the kids that I smoked with, you know what I mean, were, in my mind, just like me, And so that's what I did. I smoked copious amounts of marijuana in high school, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. And somehow, some way, I kept it away from my mother. I was a smart kid. Somehow, some way, God just blessed me with that. And I had some decent SAT scores, and I kept good grades in school, even as high as I was. And I ended up getting a full scholarship down to Florida A&M University. Florida A&M University in Tallahassee.
Okay.
So I get down there to HBCU, and I'm still smoking weed, but it's different. You're in college now, you're broke. You know what I mean? You don't have the money for that. So I'm down in school, and I did pretty good my freshman year, but that sophomore year, I'm 19 years old, and we my roommate at the time, his name is Eric. We went to Atlanta for the Atlanta Classic. That's when Florida A&M plays Southern University at the Georgia Dome. So it's a big deal, you know what I mean, to go.
Right.
Well, his brother went to Morehouse, which is, right there. And we met up with his brother, and his brother took me and my roommates to the flea market. And at the flea market, they had fake IDs all over the wall. It was just like, go choose your ID. So I was like, okay, I don't know. I think I chose Ohio.
At the flea market?
At a flea market. And I mean, it's set up like the guy had a camera and a black sheet, and just next to it, any IDs that you want.
Flea markets get away with so much. It blows my mind.
Oh my gosh. It was crazy. Just to see, I mean, it was just like an aha moment, like, wow, this really exists. But, back then, they didn't scan IDs or anything like that. You just kind of showed, almost like a library card. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just kind of showed your picture, and that was your ID. So I chose one, and we got back to Tallahassee. The first thing that I did, I tried it at every liquor store down in Tallahassee. Every liquor store. They're all ABC liquor stores and a couple other mom and pop ones, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked at every store. So I quickly, don't want to say shifted into alcohol, but alcohol became my biggest picture. It ended up being my drug of choice, but because it was so easy to get, because marijuana at the time they would go through its stages of being abundant and stages where it just wasn't there or that available. But guess what was always available? The liquor store.
Right.
So that's kind of how I shifted into still smoking a lot, you know what I mean, when I could. But getting into alcohol. And it started off same story as most other people, social, you know what I mean? Weekends partying to weekdays partying to figuring out, how do I keep the party going? And I'll tell you, by my senior year, I had a full-blown mental addiction to it, soon to be physical addiction to it. Mm-hmm. And in 2004, just wasn't doing, that well, and came back home to live with my mother. And the addiction followed me.
And you graduated, you said?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I came out in 2004, and I was living back in Hyattsville.
Right.
So when I got back, the first thing I did was start working. You know what I mean? I actually worked at a fine art gallery, which was crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah, I learned about I don't know. I always had the gift of gab. You know what I mean? So I could just figure out how to work places.
I would love to do that.
It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I actually did that for about 3 or 4 years. And I became the manager of the gallery really quickly. So, there wasn't a lot of people that I worked with. It was me and another, employee there.
Right.
So I was always had alcohol in my car or in the back, or whatever the case may be. So it was always around me, and I was always able to drink and be what's called a functional addict or a functional alcoholic.
Well, yeah, what would you define a functional alcoholic?
I think that's the most thing that you can actually say, because you're not functional. You're just able to. I don't even want to say mastered, but it's become so natural for you to be in an intoxicated state, or to be in, a high state, that people think that's you. Do you know what I mean? If you first met me and you didn't know that I was intoxicated, you couldn't smell it on me, you're just like, oh, this is his personality. It kind of becomes your personality. So that mask that you wear, that representative that you wear, that becomes you. And so when people would meet me, when people would, get to know who I was, they got to know the intoxicated side of me, because that's what I did all the time. I woke up drinking. I went to sleep drinking. And I worked drinking. So that was me. You know what I mean? So that was so crazy. And, I continued that. I was on the party scene in D.C. and PG County hard. You know what I mean? And I did that. My 20s were almost a blur. It was just partying, drinking, smoking, social life. Whose house can we go to drink at? Whose house can we go to smoke at? And so that was it. That was my biggest thing, was alcohol. Now, I will say that opioids and ecstasy and Molly did become a part of my story. Mm-hmm. That's more so in my 30s. I did kind of dabble with that in my 20s, but it just wasn't the biggest thing for me, just because, it wasn't as, I was an alcoholic. I was cool with that. You know what I mean? Party drugs were okay, but they just weren't my thing yet.
I know we all have our different preferences.
Yeah, absolutely. And they change. You know what I mean? Right. They absolutely change. Alcohol, one of those things is, it's the tolerance builds up just like any other drug. So, you go from, just needing a pint to get you through to needing a fifth to get you through, to needing a whole handle to get you through, or to get you to the state of mind that you want to be in this intoxicated state. So I would say by the time I was 30, I was drinking full-on handles a day, if not more than that, of alcohol. And like I said, still in the process, still smoking, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But drinking was just my biggest thing.
Did you feel withdrawals through your 20s of alcohol?
I didn't miss a day of drinking or drugging from when I was 19 to 39 years old. So never had to go through withdrawals. I was always able to keep a job. I was always able to keep a place to stay. I was always able to have a car. I paid my bills. I was a responsible addict, but I was still an addict. Right.
And I feel like that's what people can confuse, or that's why they call it a functional alcoholic.
Yep.
Because your life's not in chaos. Yeah. You're not ending up in jail every other day or or cars.
Well, you feel like your life's not in chaos. Your life is in chaos. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just, it's such a familiar state to be in, and you're comfortable in misery, not even knowing that you're in misery. And I'd accepted by the time I was 30, this is going to be my life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't understand people that don't drink. I don't understand people that don't smoke. Why would you want to be in this state of pain, of, sobriety, which is, for me, was painful. Sobriety, the few glimpses that I had at it, I had to face myself. I had to face my demons. I had to face, the things that I went through and didn't know how to. I was ashamed. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I felt like I was the ugliest kid around. You know what I mean? Like my self-esteem was so low. My self-worth was just not there. I had no identity. I was just going through life, just trying to, survive and make it through with nobody understanding me, nobody understanding, what I went through or why my family won't, be there for me. All these questions that you have that just go unanswered. As you go through your alcoholism or your drug addiction, I mean, to me, it's something that we're all battling, and it's an internal battle. That's why I think we get hooked on it so much, because we don't want to fight that fight. We don't know how to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We're not taught how to.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So mental health, again, it's not something that's talked about in the community. Well, at least not back then. You know what I mean? So it was just like, you don't have mental health. You're just going through something. You know what I mean? What's depression? There's no such thing as depression. You just need to go outside and play. All these things that people don't understand are clinical. Do you know what I mean? So, going through that, like I said, it was my outlet. It was my gateway to not having to deal with who I was, not having to face shame or to face guilt or to face, all these things that I thought about myself because of my upbringing.
Did anybody ever point out your alcoholism to you?
Great question. Yes, but these are the same people who participated with me. You know what I mean? Like they would be like, so I would be with people who had a cutoff limit and they knew to cut off. I just wouldn't cut off. And they're just like, bro, you know what I mean? We're all asleep. You're still up drinking. Okay, we just woke up. You're still up drinking. You know what I mean? Like I had that much of a tolerance. I was that full blown into it that people who were participating with me, you know what I mean, in partying, were pointing out, you know what I mean? Listen, bro, you might have a problem. And I'm just like, no, you got a problem.
Right.
And, and I mean, nobody like points it out and then like literally just like keeps going. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, well, we said what we needed to say. You know what I mean? If the seed's not planted, oh well, you know what I mean? But I just rejected that notion because to me, my life was just a party. And I'm like, listen, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not, like you said, getting arrested. I'm not, never had a DUI. Don't even ask me how I never had a DUI.
Don't even.
I mean, so many times I should have had one. You know what I mean?
Right.
But never hit anybody, never got in a car accident, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually really crazy because I was only drinking for a few years and I got 3. Like, my active addiction was probably 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, and I got 3 in the
How
time
old
span
were
of
you when you got it?
2 at 17, 1 at 18.
Wow.
Right.
So that happened.
In less than a year, I got them. 11 months is when I got those 3 DUIs. So it is mind blowing. I mean, I feel like that was just had to be in the cards for me to wake me up at the time that I needed to be woken up. Like if I didn't get those 3 DUIs, I wouldn't be sitting here with you having this conversation.
Well, that's what's so, I'm almost like kind of envious of that because you were able to like forcibly get it early, because you had to do something about that.
Right.
I didn't have to do anything about it. You know what I mean? Because there wasn't any legal matters, you know what I mean, pending. There wasn't, anyone who was saying, hey, listen, you're going to get fired or anything like that. Like something. I mean, my cry for help was going on for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So for you to, kind of get that forcible, I got to do something about that. I mean, that's, in my mind, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
I can say that. I have definitely a new perspective on it for sure.
Yeah.
What kind of drove you to sobriety?
Great question. So 30s, still a blur. You know what I mean? Still a blur, like literally just doing the same thing. I mean, I vacationed, I worked, I did, things that, I don't want to say normal people, but things that people do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I just was attached to drinking while I did everything and smoking while I did everything. And my early 30s, I got introduced to really doing ecstasy and really doing Molly and really taking opioids. That's pretty much when opioids hit. Now, opioids were a big thing for me, but Molly and ecstasy was a bigger thing for me.
Why do you think?
Well, 33, I met somebody and quickly turned into a relationship. And by the time I was 36 years old, we decided that we were going to get married. And she wanted this huge, huge wedding. I mean, we ended up having 400 people, you know what I mean? And it had to be paid for, right? So it was crazy because when we first initially talked about it, it was like, okay, well, like, traditional. Her family pays for the wedding. My family pays for the, dress rehearsal, whatever it's called. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if you want this huge wedding, cool. Well, the closer that we got to the marriage date, the more somehow her family couldn't come up with the money. So I, at this time, was a supervisor for an unarmed security company. And I was working down in D.C. at M Street, where the Gucci stores are and all that stuff. I don't know if you remember when Trump first got elected, but like they ransacked that area. Luckily, I wasn't working.
I was blacked out at that point
got
in my
you.
life.
Okay, all right, got you. So, anyways, I worked down there, and they give you all the overtime that you wanted. So I literally was working 16-hour days, no days off, trying to figure out how to pay for this wedding. And I did that from 36 years old. It took like 2 years up until like 38 years old when we got married. And I needed something to keep me awake.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like I would literally come home, sleep for like 2 hours and be back up. And so Molly and ecstasy, they gave me that. They gave me that mental stimulation, you know what I mean? To say, hey, listen, keep going, So I'm at work high as a kite, you know what I mean? Like off my, and mind you, I'm still doing like, opioids because they kind of took the edge off, you know what I mean? And drinking in between and oh my gosh, life is just so crazy. So anyways, to answer your question, as I did that through my 30s, as I got married, after I got married, life didn't change. I had to keep working and working and working, and I wasn't getting the support that I needed, and from my wife at the time. And I don't want to, not to go into a horror story because I don't like talking about people, but there was a lot of infidelity involved with her, and it was in my face and it was obvious. You know what I mean? All the red flags that I just kept passing by because I didn't want to see them finally came to a head, and I came home one time and it was obvious, you know what I mean, what was going on. And that actually happened a couple times. But yeah, she walked out when I confronted her about that. And that was back in 2020. And that was the last time I saw her. I talked to her.
Wow.
Like literally walked out. And yeah, I had to, I lost everything, you know what I mean? I had to move out of where we were staying. And I ended up living in DC in Southeast with like a big brother of mine, kind of my play uncle. And in the process, what drove me to sobriety was all the things that happened after she walked out. She was a swinger, you know what I mean? And I had no clue that the people that we were hanging around were all swinging, you know what I mean? And so a couple of her girlfriends like called me up and was like, yeah, how are you guys doing? Had no clue that she had left, like thought that we were all still together. And we're like, yeah, when are you coming to one of these parties? And I'm like, what party? You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about?
That's so crazy that you didn't you didn't know.
Never put two and two together. And everybody knew except me. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah.
I think they knew that I didn't know, which was even crazier. You know what I mean? And I mean, like, I left all of my people to be with like her people, which was just like separated me from like people who actually really cared about me.
Yeah.
So when I was getting all these calls after the fact, like, yeah, when are you coming to do this? When are you coming? I'm like, listen, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You're going to have to break this down for me. So after a lot of back and forth, it finally just, they would tell me, hey, listen, this is what's going on. This is the situation. This is what, we always let you get a pass because you were working so much. But yeah, you need to come. And I'm like, you guys got to be crazy. I'm not coming to do any of that stuff. But thanks for letting me know. But in the process of them letting me know, it's like I had to face that. Like, geez, you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, my whole marriage was a lie. My whole relationship was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that really drove me into even more of a depression. It drove me into almost PTSD. You know what I mean? Like my here it is. My wife just walked out. I haven't seen her. I talked to her. Now I'm in the process of going through. Finally got divorce papers. I'm going through the process of getting a divorce. My life is in shambles, and I don't understand it. And here I am getting new messages about just how bad my relationship was.
I still think it's crazy. She never let you know that she.
No, she let me know with her actions.
Right.
I just didn't want to pay attention to them. When you're so, at the time, I was really into God, or really getting into God, and especially the Bible. And I kind of just let the Bible almost be too much of an influencer to use common sense. It was almost like the Bible says, stay married. You know what I mean? God doesn't like divorce. So figure this out. You know what I mean? Figure out how to make your wife happy, even though, these things are in your face. Figure out. And I used that as a scapegoat to not deal with what needed to be dealt with, which was crazy. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it also gave me an excuse not to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? And so I didn't, and things just got more exacerbated. Things just got, to the point where, like I said, she didn't even care anymore, and it was just in my face.
And then in this time, throughout the divorce, you're using opioids?
Yes, and handfuls. When I say I got to this point now, I'm 39 years old at the time, and I had finally lost my job. Moved back home with my mom. Yeah. All I had to my name was my car, my savings account. And lo and behold, I had a lot of savings, you know what I mean? So I was able to just kind of isolate in my room. I'm pretty sure my mom knew what was going on, but didn't want to face it. Yeah. So I would just like keep myself locked in my room, and there were just mountains of bottles, you know what I mean? And my dealer was right down the street, you know what I mean? So
what opioid were you addicted to?
Morphine. I was addicted to Percocets, and I was addicted to Oxys.
Wow.
And it wasn't so much, I was addicted, but it was more so, they were my play drug. I was really more so addicted to Molly and ecstasy. The opioids just made me feel like they would take the edge off, if that makes sense. And the drinking would take the edge off, so that when I was too, when you take so much ecstasy, you can be way too high. You know what I mean? At least I was. And it kind of brought me down and mellowed me out so that I could like deal with the high. So yeah, by this time, when I say I'm taking handfuls of pills, whatever that may be, and just drinking myself into a drunken stupor. In August of 2021, I woke up in the hospital 3 days before my birthday. I had 6 seizures back to back, and my tongue was halfway chewed off.
Wow.
And I don't know how I got there or anything like that. But my mother came into the hospital, and she was just looking at me, and I just remember she gave me this look of just I never want to see on her face before. Never ever want to see on her face again. And it was just like, you need to get some help. Please get some help. And like that was my aha moment. Like that was almost a spiritual awakening for me, even though I didn't, at the time it was just like trying to just please my mom, So we called the crisis. She had me call the crisis hotline, and the crisis hotline had me go to a fire station in Crofton, Maryland, and they picked me up, and they took me to a place called Pascal in Crownsville, Annapolis, which is a rehabilitation center. And I got there, and I was actually there for like 3 weeks before I ended up going to Project Chesapeake. But in these 3 weeks, I wasn't going through any withdrawals or anything like that. It was just like, oh, this is easy, And so finally, in September 8th of 2021, I went to Project Chesapeake, and it's so crazy. The day that I got there, all of a sudden my withdrawals hit. And they all hit at once. My shakes were out of control. I'm sweating all the time. I'm having body chills. I can't keep food down. I can't eat. My stomach is I was in so much pain at one time. I didn't even know how to like deal with it. You know what I mean? Like I just stayed in my room. I would be holding my stomach, like luckily the guys there would check on me, but I was going through the worst withdrawals ever. September 15th, I'll never forget. I was going through withdrawal so bad I didn't want to wake up the next day. And this actually happened I was feeling like that for the previous like 2 days or so.
Yeah.
But that particular day, I was in so much pain. I was so frustrated and just so sad and so mad at the world. I didn't know what else to do except I asked God to surrender. And I didn't. Now, mind you, I grew up, like I said, I went to private schools, which was a Christian school. So I grew up with the religion of God. God is about commandments, and God is wrath if you're not pleasing him. And God doesn't, why would God like me? I'm the worst.
You have this huge structure in your mind of what God is.
The stigma.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, finally, my fuck the stigma moment came in, if that makes sense. And I was like, God, if you're there, if you can help me, help me. I'm surrendering to you. I don't know how to surrender to you. I don't know how to have faith in you. I don't know how to believe in you. Like these are all things I'm saying out loud. You know what I mean? And literally, I heard an okay. And it wasn't an audible okay. It wasn't like me and you talking. It was just like a reassurance that I heard that said okay. And like, I asked again, I'm like, are you sure you got me, God? Like, seriously? Like, am I tripping right now? And like, I heard it again.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy about that day is my withdrawals got worse, actually, after that. But I had this spiritual reassurance that someone was with me, and I could make it through. And I didn't have to overthink it. I just had to get through that day. And so like my mindset changed. And I started to develop a spiritual relationship with God at this time, not a religion with God. And God was just showing me, you know, how much he loved me, how much he had been there for me, and that it was okay to start thinking better of myself. I was worthy of recovery. I didn't have to live in this shame and guilt anymore. I could start to face it. And the way that I faced it, honestly, was starting to be transparent with people. Hey, this is what I went through. This is how I feel. This was my childhood. This was my 20s. This was my 30s. And in sharing that, you know, and getting the help that was coming, you know, the therapy that I went through and the mentors that I ended up getting, ended up going to, well, I'll get into that. But through the process, I started to learn how to heal. God started bringing all the components, all the pieces of the puzzle for me to start healing through people, you know, through different things, which is amazing.
That's how I feel like I connect with God, is when I hear things from other people. I'm like, I was meant to hear that because of God.
Sure.
That makes sense. Like, I feel like God speaks to me through other people.
Yeah, that's exactly how God works, through other people.
Right.
Because like, people don't realize, like, drugs and alcohol, they isolate you. We're not meant to be in isolation. We're meant to all be a part of the body. We're meant to all help each other in some way, shape, or form. But when you're stuck in shame, you're stuck in guilt, you'll isolate yourself away from all that help that you need because you don't feel worthy enough to get it. You don't even know that that's help coming. And so I wasn't ashamed anymore of all these withdrawals that I'm going through, and the fact that I had been an alcoholic and a drug addict for 20 years of my life. You know what I mean? It was just finding like part of my story. So I did 60 days of Project Chesapeake, and afterwards I went to a sober living home, place called Opportunity Ministries, and which I'm the program manager for now. But we'll talk about that later. But anyways, when I got there, the program manager at the time, name was Tyler. And he actually had worked at Project Chesapeake as a tech before he became the program manager. He's the reason that I went over to the sober living there. And I was in the program called the SOAR program, which was a 6-month program at the time, which funded by University of Maryland. And what you had to do was get a job, and instead of paying rent, you save that money. You know what I mean? That you would be paying rent. You know, you put it into your savings account. And they would check and make sure that you had that. Well, I was in that program, and Tyler, he was a very spiritual person, took me to Lighthouse Church in Glen Burnie to a place called Celebrate Recovery, which I love to this day, and I'm still a major part of. And we met Friday nights, and I just remember going in there initially, I was just quiet. You know, I was just watching. I was just looking at how amazing it was that all these people were here with problems and able to talk about them. You know, Celebrate Recovery, I was doing AA and NA, you know, at the time, but God wasn't really talked about. Your higher power could be whatever you wanted it to be. And so for whatever reason, the AA meetings and the NA meetings that I went to, God wasn't a priority as far as healing. God wasn't a priority in recovery. Well, Celebrate Recovery, God was the priority. God is healing. And so I was able to embrace that because I had a relationship already with God. And God kind of led me there. And so that's really where my healing journey really began. Past, I should say, you know, the going through the withdrawals and going through my kind of like spiritual awakening, or my surrender, I should say, September 15th. When I got there, I felt accepted. I felt normal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm around normal. I mean, people that have problems just like me.
Right. The exact opposite of how you felt growing up.
Exact opposite of how I felt growing up. And to be able to tell people, you know, this is how I felt, and for other people to say, that's exactly how I felt. And I'm like, I'm not alone. You know what I mean? Like, this whole time, throughout my whole life, I felt like I was just different, and I'm just like this horrible person that horrible things happen to because for whatever reason, God doesn't like me, to the point where, no, you went through all these things for a reason. You may not know what it is yet, but this is all going to be part of your testimony. This is all going to be part of your character. And this is all going to be you going from that old person to the new you, which is an amazing journey, which I'm still on. Mm-hmm. I say that to say, getting to celebrate recovery and then even going to Lighthouse Church, which I still go to now, that was a major turn for me as far as how I felt about myself, because I was able to start speaking and I was able to start talking about it. And the more that I talked, the more transparent I became, because the more healing was happening. I had asked God for forgiveness, and that's where you get your forgiveness from. But the actual healing comes from confessing to other people that you trust. And here's an environment, here's a platform where there's brothers and sisters that you can trust, and you can start the healing process just by getting all these things off of your chest that you have been bottling in for so long. So that's what I did. Yeah. And that's what I continue to do. And now I'm kind of on the other side, which is amazing. And the reason that I say that is there are so many, well, let me touch on one thing. In 2022, Tyler passed away from a drug overdose. And that rocked me. That was the one time that I should say I was on the fence about staying in recovery or not. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to go back. I wanted that pain gone. I wanted to go back to what was familiar. And what did I know what was familiar? I knew drugs. I knew alcohol. Luckily, though, I kept that tape right on my shoulder that I would play back about, man, you went through all this in life. Do you really want to give all this up to go back to that? And that was strong enough at the time, and God was strong enough to keep me, to let me face the pain, let me grieve my loss. You know what I mean? Of my, he was my mentor. He's a great friend of mine, and I was actually offered the program manager position. And at first, I didn't want it.
Yeah.
I'm like, he just died. Why would I want to take on, you know what I mean, this responsibility, you know what I mean? And I prayed on it. I was offered that position in July of 2022, and I prayed and I prayed. I was actually working full-time back at Project Chesapeake, the place that I had gone through, you know what I mean? They were like, you're pretty awesome, so come back and work. So I was okay. So I worked there. And in September, after enough prayer and again, God working through people and people saying, listen, you should really do this. You know what I mean? You have a gift for this. You have a passion for this. I said, well, let me give it a try. So I talked to Project Chesapeake, and they're like, oh, well, please don't go. But if you do go, can you at least float for us? And I'm like, sure, absolutely float. You know what I mean? And work on, part-time, you know what I mean? So I did that, and I let the company know, hey, listen, these are my circumstances, and this is what I need to come over. And they were like, okay, that's fine. And in September, I finally accepted it. And I took over as program manager. And it was like the best thing that I could have done, because I realized at that point, all of the guys in the program that I was overseeing, all the guys that were lost, I had already had that story. That was already my story. So I'm able to start talking to them, and they're able to break that barrier and take that wall down and take that mask down and start to trust that, we can have conversation and you can talk to me and I can relate to you. And it was almost just like an aha, like, God, you got me go through all of that just to be here to start helping these guys.
Right.
And like, that's what I do to this day, is not just help guys as far as just recovery, but also help them with the relationship with their higher power. Whatever that may be, as far as their spiritual higher power, you know what I mean? Like, your higher power to me, it's not going to be a doorknob, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever they cliches that they say in, AA and NA. But, if your spiritual higher power is, a relationship, with the God of your understanding, I'm going to advocate for you. You know what I mean? As long as that's helping you, whatever her name, his name, or whatever entity's name that is, I'm for it. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not necessarily an advocate for organized religion.
Okay.
I'm just not. There's so many flaws in it. I believe that the church doesn't answer enough questions, and the church doesn't accept people. Go ahead.
No, I hear you though. Yeah. But you still go to church.
I still go to church.
Yeah, explain that.
So
a lot of people, like, I know so many people that they have an idea and like a conception with a higher power, and they're like, I kind of believe in God, but not exactly sure what that is.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense of not being able to exactly explain what your higher power is, because in my personal opinion, like, I don't think I'll ever be able to put my higher power to words, because it's greater than words and like what my mind can even like conceptualize.
I get it.
But even in sobriety, like, I wouldn't say I'm a Christian or believe that in the Holy Trinity and things of that nature. But I went to church as well, and in LA when I lived there, and I honestly kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, explain that. Like, why do you still go to church, but you're not a fan of organized religion, and you have your own conception of a higher power?
Sure. So God is everything.
Right.
Everything. And you know, when I go to church, I go for the word and not the show. And what I mean by that is Pastor Sammy, he's awesome. He actually is in recovery. You know what I mean? And going to Lighthouse Church, I get a word. But I'm also able to be a real example of light. When I go to church, I come just like this. I'm not there to impress anybody. I'm there to get the word. But I'm also there to show people this is what light looks like. This is what love looks like. This is how you humble yourself. This is what humility looks like. This is what being of service to other people looks like. That's me being a disciple in my mind of what I feel that God really wants from me. And this isn't anything that I'm trying to pour into anybody else. This is just what I'm pouring into me. This is my relationship with God. And you know, when you go to church and you see people looking at the person who kind of looks bummy or looks like they're intoxicated or whatever the case may be, I go embrace that person. Hey, welcome. Good to have you here. You know what I mean? What's your name? Why don't you come sit with me? You know what I mean? Just because the church is one of the first places, especially organized church, where you're judged as soon as you walk in. You know what I mean? Here's supposed to be a safe place that you're trying to come to know God at, but if you're going to know God through people, here's all these people judging you or looking at you. You know, God meets you where you're at. You know, in the sorriest, worst place that you could possibly be, he's right there building you back up. And so I'm going to be somebody that's going to be there to build you up and help you on your journey, because God's helping me on my journey, and he's putting people in my life to help me in my journey. So the reason I still go to church is to show, not necessarily to like broadcast, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is who I am, but to actually be there for people who really, really need a relationship with God, who are lost. Do you know what I mean? And to show people that, you know what, don't worry about the masses that are here, you know, go to the ones who actually have light, who are going to be here to give you life, who are going to be able to pour into you. And those may be few and far between, but we're here and we're here to help. And we're here to not only be part of the body, but to show you what part of the body you belong to, so that you can feel accepted in a crazy world or crazy church or whatever the case may be. So, that church to me is spiritual as far as when I get the word. And it's also just a place that I go to recharge. And it's not, like I said, through the wrong people, it's through the right people that are there. So that's why I still go.
What was your exact issue with organized religion?
So I grew up in me growing up in private school, me growing up in church with my mom, you know, here I am, a kid that's lost. Here I am, a kid that's begging for, you know what I mean, someone to tell him who he is, what his identity is, why his family doesn't like him, all these things. And when you're being taught about God in private school, you're taught verbatim, oh, this is what the Bible says, you know what I mean? So this is how you have to be. And I'm like, I can't be that. I can't be this perfect person. I can't not sin. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's interesting because the Bible, I think God also expects us to sin is also what they say. Like, we're sinners. And
we'll all fall short.
Right.
All will fall short. But somehow I'm supposed to, you know, emulate Jesus and be just like him. And not to say that Jesus is the perfect example of who to be. You know what I mean? But you can't be him. You know what I mean? We are all doing our best. I fall flat on my face every day spiritually, but I get back up. And the reason that I'm not a fan of organized religion is because they don't teach you that. They don't say, hey, it's okay to have shame. It's okay to have guilt. It's not okay to stay there. It's not okay to stay stuck there. And how you get unstuck is this. You know, don't tell me all the bad things that I am or all the problems that I had unless you're going to offer me some solutions. And that's where I think the church falls short is, oh yeah, they're there. They can condemn. They can tell you, you know what I mean, all the wrong things. Well, help me do the right things. What's my solution? How do I come to know God? How do I not feel judged? How do I feel like I can actually be worthy enough of God's love? If those questions aren't being answered, which I don't think the church does a good job of it, well, then you have people who are lost and people who don't trust God or trust a higher power, because why should they? Here are all these people that say they have a higher power who say that they are God-fearing, and they're judgmental and they're biased and they are sinners, you know what I mean? Whether in the closet or out of the closet, you know? And why would I want to be like that? So I'll just do bad all by myself over here.
Yeah.
And no, you don't have to do bad all by yourself over there. You can, God will search for you, and you can find the people who have light for you and that'll pour into you and not take from you or pick from you or break you down, but build you up. And the way that I kind of, there's so many people led by pride and so many people led by ego and think that that's really where power is. And it's not.
That's our default. Is being led by ego.
Yes.
That's where our identity is.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, mind you, I'm not going to say that I think that ego and pride are bad words. Not saying that. But living through them solely is a horrible thing to do.
Because in a sense, we need ego to kind of get through life a
Yes.
little bit, but
Yes.
not the entirety. We don't want to live entirely through.
You have
ego.
to have ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In some aspect, but it has to be checked. There has to be balance involved. You know, and that's where being humble comes in. You know, when you're humble, you're teachable. When you're humble, you're not in a place of I know everything or I'm better than or anything like that. You're in a place to say I can learn from this little kid. I can learn from this older person. I can, you know, I'm in a place where I can accept.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or I can entertain an idea without accepting or rejecting it because I'm humble enough to do so. I'm practicing humility because I'm not better than anybody.
Right. Have you heard the thing that if you say you're humble, you're not really humble?
You know, I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, no, I think if you practice being humble is a practice.
It is.
It's not, you're just not, oh, I'm humble, you know what I mean? Because I decided to be. No. You practice being, God puts you in so many situations in life where you have to humble yourself to adhere to that situation or to adhere to that person or to practice humility so that you don't spaz out or whatever the case may be. There's so many times where like, you know that you're, I don't know, if just use an example, like somebody talking to you, you know, that in a way that it feels belittling or, you know, you're like, who are you talking to? You know, you're about to cuss them out and it's like, whoa. Let me practice some humility because maybe this person's having a horrible day and maybe their life is horrible and maybe, you know, whatever the case may be, am I doing more damage than good by reacting? Or should I just be responsive to this and say, you know what, I don't like necessarily how this is going, but I'm just going to chill because this doesn't deserve a reaction. This doesn't deserve me coming up with a negative emotion or acting on a negative emotion because somebody was trying to feed and trying to pour their negativity onto me. I don't have to accept that. And so I think that's where practicing being humble and practicing humility comes in, is in those situations, in those circumstances that you're faced with having to be that.
Right.
And that's a practice.
I agree completely. I don't think you really get to a place where, you're just like, I'm humble. It's a constant practice. Like life is a constant practice, even our recovery. It's not like we're ever just good and I don't have to like, look at myself anymore. Yeah, it's all a practice.
Absolutely.
That keeps me sane. Like knowing that like nobody really has it figured out.
I think that's it does keep you sane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you don't have to be perfect and you don't have to be better than, and you can just be yourself and fit in however you fit in, you know what I mean? Or fit out however you fit out, whatever the case may be. But I also think a big component of it is also being of service to people. Yeah. There's so much, it's the gift that pours right back into you.
Yeah. I just mentioned this the other day to somebody. Like sometimes when we're feeling the worst, like we get this urge to like just talk to somebody.
Sure.
Even if it's not about ourselves, it's just like how are you doing? How's your day? Even though I feel like shit.
Yeah.
That's something I learned a lot in early recovery is if you feel so wrapped in your own shit
Sure.
and you feel like, yeah, horrible,
Yeah.
go talk to somebody else and see how they're doing. It gets you out of yourself, and that's a service.
That's it.
Yeah, like service is the goal, especially in 12, even in 12 step and even in the church.
Yeah.
It's like the goal is to be of service, and it feels almost like the most fulfilling thing you can do.
It's interesting that you said that. That's one thing that they'll tell you to celebrate recovery. If you're feeling bad, go help somebody.
Right.
You'll feel better. You know what I mean?
Feel better.
And it's a natural thing. You know what? Yeah.
And it's like an end of sentence. You know what I mean? It's just like, go help somebody else.
Go help somebody.
Yeah.
And it, you know, the thing about people don't understand, like that person that you go help, 9 times out of 10, they needed that.
Right.
You know, they needed someone to speak life into them, or to smile at them, or to call them sir or ma'am, or whatever the case may be.
Hold the door open.
Do you see what I'm saying? Something that minimal can change somebody's life that day.
Yeah.
Because you have no clue that they've never had the door open for them.
Have you ever heard the thing of, it's called Sonder?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes we forget that Sonder means like, like you get this awareness that like everybody has a life just as complex as your own.
Sure.
Like everybody standing in traffic is dealing with something.
Yeah.
But we're only concerned where we have to be.
Yes.
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 Why the fuck did I bring that up? Oh, because you never know what somebody's going through. And then like you kind of have to like consciously put yourself in a headspace of, oh my God, I don't know what this person might be going through.
Right.
So it's really taking that time aside to just talk to somebody or do a kind thing.
You know, I think that's amazing. That's a great point. And I think that puts us in a state of mind that it's not all about me. You know what I mean? Like everybody is going through something, and you know, you're riding down the street and somebody cuts you off, and the first thing you want to do is flip them out. You know what I mean? To cuss them out, or whatever the case may be, to the point where, you know, this person may be driving to the emergency room. Mm-hmm. You have no clue why they just did that. You know what I mean? That's what I teach all of my guys, or everybody that I run into, being responsive versus being reactive. Because when you're responsive, you're acknowledging the emotion. You're acknowledging what you're going through. But you're also taking the time to say, does this deserve a reaction? Do I need to react right now? And 9 times out of 10, you don't. Especially if it's a knee-jerk reaction. Oh my gosh, trust me, you're about to get yourself in some trouble. But it's okay to respond to how you're feeling. Mm-hmm. It's okay to respond to, like, our emotions are just radar. Do you know what I mean? It's letting you know, hey, listen, this is what's I don't want to say making you feel, but this is how this is the emotion that you're responding to this situation.
It's a guide. That's what my therapist, he was a pain in my ass. But my therapist, I have a big problem with like connecting with my emotions and really identifying with my emotions and like really saying like, oh, Laisha, this is actually what you're feeling right now. Yeah. And he was telling me like your emotions are a guide. Like they don't have to control you, but it tells you like what your body's okay with and what's making you feel, what's painful and what's not. Yeah.
And I think, you know, the interesting thing about emotion is, you know, people always say feelings aren't facts.
Yes.
Yes, they are. A feeling is a fact. You telling me I'm not angry right now? I'm angry. You telling me I'm not happy right now? I'm happy. Don't tell me what I'm not when I'm feeling this way. But the root of how you got there may be off. And what I mean by that is, if I'm reacting to a situation right away because it made me upset, is this being upset warranted? Or am I just jumping to this because I'm being reactive? If I'm responsive, I can sit and say, wait a minute, I may not need to have a negative emotion right now. I can stay positive. I'm okay right here. So when we take the time to acknowledge our feelings and to acknowledge our emotions, like you said, they're a guide. But how I got to this emotion, I think, is more important. Right. And that's what you want to kind of like plug into is, why am I here? Why am I feeling this emotion? And should I actually be feeling this emotion? And if so, why? And literally, it just takes a couple of seconds to really process all that. It doesn't take that long. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you got to take a breath.
Right. And again, it's a practice.
Yeah, absolutely. an ongoing practice. And the practice gets harder and harder and harder because the more that you kind of like level up with your humility or level up with your humbleness, you're going to be put in situations where that's going to get challenged over and over and over again. And it's, who are you today? Are you still that person that's practicing that? And that's all like what growth is. Like, what are you growing into? What's your path? What's your character building like? Are you accepting, you know what I mean, these building blocks of your character? Are you rejecting them? Are you pushing them away? And those are the tests that we get put through, in my opinion, to kind of keep us in check and say, okay, well, where am I going today? How am I growing today? Am I growing on the right path? Am I doing the right things? And those are just through the situations and things that we go through, especially with people.
Right. Yeah. Would you say God is just a crucial thing in life? A crucial relationship that you need to have in life?
Absolutely. I think that, the greatest thing about God is that when you have God in your life, people validation isn't premier. It's not the most priority. It's not what you put on a pedestal. When God is at the forefront, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be right where you are. You don't have to be anywhere else except us right now talking is God. And when you don't have that, you feel like you need to have a sense of acceptance from someone or a sense of, I'm not being validated by these people, so I need to change. Who I am is not right. And with God, it's, no, you're fine. You're good. And if you don't feel you're right, come to me and we'll work on it. But it kind of gives you, without God, it's very hard to find your identity. It's very hard to find your purpose. And I think one of the saddest things that most people go through in life is they go through life getting all the material things that they wanted and never finding their purpose. Never using their God-given gifts and talents because they weren't able to tap into that. We're too ingrained in society and what society wants us to be or society tells us to be. As a man growing up in society says, hey, listen, you know what? If you want something, work hard enough at it. If you want to do it yourself. Don't tell anybody your dreams or your plans or anything like that because they're just going to beat you down. Like all these things that keep us away from collectively being a unit as people in life. And, with God, you get to tap into needing help and accepting help. You get to tap into saying, you know what, God, how come this is easy to me and it's not to everybody else? Is this something I need to be doing? How come I'm getting all these material things? I've got this car, I've got this house, but I still feel empty. How come I'm in this relationship and it's not pouring into me? And I think without God, you kind of put all of your feelings and the validation of who you are and people are material too, into material things. And you never get fulfilled. You never get satisfied. The Bible says the flesh can never be satisfied, and that's what everybody's living through. Flesh. And the flesh is everything. The flesh is everything that you see that you want, everything that you hear about. Social media, flesh. You know what I'm saying? Like fake flesh at that. But it's all these things that you think, if I have that, I'll feel better. If I have that person, I'll feel better. If I have this title, I'll feel better. If I have this prestige, I'll feel better. And no, you won't. You'll feel better with God.
Wow. That's my fear. I was actually recently talking about that because like the lottery's been trending recently, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, you get to thinking of like what you would do with the money, or if somebody you knew got the money or whoever. And I was just like, had a feeling. I was like, I don't think anybody would be satisfied. There would still be a hole somewhere inside of you that like just isn't okay. Even though like you have this delusion that everything will be so much better, all of my problems will be solved.
Sure. Let me ask you a question.
What?
Say you won the lottery today, right?
You're right.
Big old lottery. What would you do with it? What do you think you would do with it?
I genuinely think I would want to help my parents out, like just retire them, right? And I definitely think, because like this is a nonprofit, I want to do something more with this. I don't think it has the funding right now to do enough.
Okay.
And then buy a house.
Okay.
Buy a house.
Okay.
I think that's about it.
What kind of?
A car. I fucking hate my car.
Okay, got you.
It keeps. There's always something wrong with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I think I would take care of people. You know what I mean? Like it's a fuck ton of money, and you have enough money to almost solve world hunger in different countries.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many people in the world that have billions and millions, but they just keep it and want more. Yeah. And that's what I'm scared of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm scared that say I had that money, all of a sudden I'm greedy.
Yeah.
Like that's like imagine I did that. I'd be shocked with myself almost.
You know, the reason I asked that is I was asked that question before. And I remember, you know, the first time I've been asked it several times. And I answered almost identical to you. I would help people. I would help myself. I'd help my parents out. I'd help my family out.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I realized that I wasn't going to who I needed to go to answer that question. And so I prayed on it one time. I said, God, what would I do with all this? He said, why don't you come to me?
That's a good one. I agree.
And the reason I said it is because we don't know what to do. You know that they actually did a study about people that, you know, went from poor to winning the lottery.
Yeah.
And they were worse off, many of them, after they won the lottery than before they were. And they were poor.
Right.
Because you get all this money and you want people to know. You know what I mean? Look at all this money that I got. And you have no clue that that's just attracting vultures. That's attracting people that want to take your money from you. That's attracting problems. All this money that you have, I don't want anybody to know I got money. Nobody. I'm still going to drive my same car. I'm going to, I don't want to say live where I live, but I will quietly move, if that makes sense. But I would definitely pray on it and just sit and see what God has to do with me. I'm going to tell you something that happened to me, which was an aha moment. I'm a very giving person now, but I remember there was this lady at McDonald's, and I'm not, before I tell you this quick story, I'm not saying this to shame her or to say, this was just my aha moment. Mm-hmm. And every time I saw her, it was on my way to the gym, and I would always be going to the gym, and I would see her, and I would, you know, I made sure I stopped at the ATM to always make sure I had some money to give her.
Wow. And
so I gave her money, and I just remember this one time I went to the McDonald's, and I didn't have any money on me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what can I do? Let me go through the drive-thru and order some food, you know what I mean? And for her, you know what I mean? And I wasn't even thinking, like, why don't I go ask her what food she wants? You know what I mean? I'm just assuming that I'm going to get, you know. So I just ordered a bunch of food, and as I was ordering food, I just remember I was sitting in line, and it just happened to be a long line that day, and I watched her fold her sign up, and she walked all the way down to the end of the parking lot. And for this particular reason, McDonald's was backed up that day, and I watched her go all the way down to the end of the parking lot, and she got into a Lexus and drove off. And I'm like, God, what is going on here? What I give it, you know what I mean? Like, why, what did I see this for? Why did this just happen? And literally after I prayed on that and I meditated on it, God was like, listen, everything that you do needs to go through me. Just because you feel that person needs help doesn't mean that I necessarily have you to help that person. I may have somebody else coming around to help that person. So tap into me so that I can give you the answers for what you need to do. And that's why I try to be responsive spiritually about all my actions, about everything that I do. I say, God, is this something that I need to do? Yeah. Is this a place that I need to be? Is this somebody that you want me to talk to? And if you do want me to talk to, can you give me the words to talk to that person? Mm-hmm. And again, it just takes a pause to say, God, what do I need to do in this situation? And you don't always get the answer right away, or you don't feel like you get the answer right away, but God's actually working through you. You have no clue. You just prayed on it, and now you told somebody something, and you have no clue that just planted a seed, right, even though you're just speaking to them naturally. But as you allow God to guide you, in my opinion, as I allow God to guide me, as I allow my spirituality to grow, I trust more and more that the things that I do and say for people are from Him, or that, not to say reprimanded, but if I am doing things wrong, that He comes to me and says, hey, listen, yeah, your heart's in the right place, but your head's not there, or whatever the case may be. So let's tweak that a little bit. Let's turn you into doing this instead of doing that, you know, Because our head and our heart could be in the right places, and we could still be doing the wrong thing.
Mm.
In my opinion, you know what I mean? Because I'm an example of it
Right.
all the time. But yeah, that's more so. The reason that I shared that is because we can be very giving. We can be wanting to help people, but it's almost like how they talk about, enabling versus helping. Am I enabling this situation or am I helping this situation? And if I have no discernment or understanding on the situation, then I don't know what I'm necessarily doing. So me giving this money to this person may need that money. This person may need whatever I'm giving them, or this person may not. This person may just be out, panhandling because they're about to go into their Lexus, or you know what I mean, or whatever the case may be, and
Pay off that car payment.
pay it off, exactly. So I think that with praying for discernment, praying for understanding, and a knowledge base and wisdom of who I need to be today, or not who I need to be today, but what I need to do today. What do I do when I encounter whoever you have me encounter today, God? The more that I tap into that, the more that I trust that the answer's already with me, if that makes sense.
Right.
And if they're not, then they'll come to me. You know what I mean? In due time. And that due time is his time, not my time. And it's usually the perfect time.
What would you, I know I kind of just like earlier I said something about, I can't put my higher power into words, so I can't really explain what it is. But do you by chance have a way to put your higher power into words? Like, what would you say your higher power is?
Okay. So as honest as I can be, I follow Jesus. What I think about Jesus isn't necessarily what the church thinks about Jesus. I think that Jesus came to this world and Jesus was the greatest teacher ever of who we can be when we live for God. God to me is everything and anything. Bad, good, whatever. Every circumstance that we go through is God. Every trial, every tribulation, every triumph, every transformation, everything is God. And spiritual-wise, a relationship with God, what does that look like? How did I get to that? Well, it's going through life and trusting the fact that God's guiding me and learning from what I go through instead of blaming what I go through or being mad about what I go through. Not worrying about the result or the end game so much and just being led and just living. And I think that, whether you read the Torah or whether you read the Bible or whether you read the Quran or whatever your guide may be, it's more so of a guide for you to say, hey, God, what does this mean for me? And whatever that answer is to be your answer, just between you and God. My relationship with God won't look like your relationship with God. Who I call God may not be who you call God, but why can't we be praying to the same God? Who's to tell me? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't want my relationship to look like anybody else's. I want my relationship to be my relationship, but I will tell people how I got to my relationship, if that makes sense. And I will pour into you as much as I can. And in my mind, God is like I said, everything. He's who, how do I say this? He's not just my example, but he's why my heart feels the way that it does. It's why I'm able to pause for a moment and say, hey, listen, let me take a time to think about this. It's why I'm able to practice humility and not go through this worldly way of living of just pride and ego and letting that just be the say and be all for who I am and what I stand for and who I'm growing into. And to me, that's God. God is who enables me or gives me breath and gives me life to say, hey, listen, you don't have to live like that. You don't have to be a part of that. You don't have to feel empty. You can live fulfilled. You can live full. Your cup can runneth over through me. And I hope I gave you some type of glimpse of what that means. But that's what God is to me. God is everything.
Yeah.
Any and everything that we go through is God.
I love that. Yeah. And really appreciate this conversation today. And thank you so much.
More than welcome. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate you.
No, of course. Yeah, no, I feel like it's given me a lot of insight, and I hope you had a good time.
This is great. This is great. I hope the viewers got something out of it, and
Yeah.
I hope you get a ton of great comments and good questions, and yeah, we can do it again sometime.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming on the FTS podcast.
Thanks.